I deployed to Iraq in, was it August of 2005? And from there, I ended up getting sent up to Iraq proper, up by Camp Cedar, and then I ended up coming back down around Thanksgiving time. During that time, I had blown a disc out in my neck, so I lost feeling in my arm, and I had to have somebody take a look at it. So they sent me down to um, Kuwait City to get an MRI done, and they said, "Yeah, you got a disc blown out in your neck. You're gonna have to head into Landstuhl, which is in Germany, for further treatment." So I'm like, "All right, well, there goes my war." So getting ready to head there, and um, I'm at the Ali Salim Air Force Base, and in the medical hold area, there's a guy that's looking at me the whole time, and I'm just like, I don't know who the hell this guy is. Keeps looking at me, keeps looking at me. It started to make me a little uncomfortable. We get on the airplane, we fly over, and even when I'm on the airplane, headed to Germany, he's still looking at me. It's like he's checking me out for some reason, and I couldn't figure out why. We land at Ramstein Air Force Base, get escorted off. We go through the in processing there. X amount of people on the plane, X amount of people off the plane. Take the bus over to Landstuhl, into where we're to, like, the holding or the reception area that's there. Go through, get my room, and as I'm standing there, this guy just keeps looking at me, looking at me, looking at me, looking at me. I'm like, man, this is driving me crazy. You know how, like, when people are just staring at you and you can't figure out why? And I'm like, do I got a booger? Do I got this? Do I got that? I'm like, no, I don't know that. I made sure there was no bats in the cave. So we get through there, and after we get through the processing and get in the room, and I'm standing in the hallway, and he finally comes up to me and says, "You don't recognize me, do you, sir?" And of course, I'm like, "Oh boy, um, should I?" I'm saying this in my head. I'm flipping through my own Rolodex, mental Rolodex, trying to figure out who this guy is. And he says, "Let me help you out." Or I say, "No, not really. I'm not recognizing you in the least bit." And he says, "Let me help you out." He says, "Traffic stop in Wausau, Wisconsin." I was like, "You were the passenger of that vehicle that we had stopped, because if I remember correctly, the registered owner had a warrant out for his arrest." So we stopped the vehicle, and the driver gets mouthy, and I wasn't dealing with him. I was dealing with the passenger. There was a couple of other people that were working around the squad. So we're standing on the sidewalk, and we're just kind of chit chatting. And I'm like, "All right, you got a way to get out of here? Can you pick up a ride?" He's like, "I've already got a ride on the way." He's like, "Called somebody." So I'm like, "All right, cool." Next thing you know, we take his buddy to jail, and I thought the end of it. So here I am in Germany, no knowledge of anybody that's there other than myself, and it's a little unsettling to see somebody staring at you the whole time, and you're like, all right, but so as I'm standing with him, we're talking about the traffic stop and everything, and I said, "You know what? For my own information, this is all I really want to know. How did I treat you?" Is exactly what I asked him. And he stopped, and he looked me dead in the eye, and he says, "Sir," he says, "I wish there was more cops like you out there." And I was like, "Whoa," I said, I don't, I'm saying to myself, I don't know if I was a great cop. I've made mistakes just like everybody else. But I always try to remember that on the opposite side of the badge, there was another human being standing there that needed um, guidance, or however you want to call it that. And I never thought of, hey, I'm not saying I was a great officer. I'm just saying, hey, I didn't know if I was a great officer or not. But um, years later, halfway around the world, and that was the one thing that he remembered. Over the years, I've forgotten a lot of traffic stops. I've forgotten license plates. I've forgotten names. But that day reminded me of something that I'll never forget. People may not remember you for every word that you say. They may not remember you for every decision that you make, but they'll remember you how you treated them. And that's why I still ask myself this question. How did I treat you?